So even though the president was not the highest executive decision maker, his death, I think, creates a very serious and a very severe crisis for the Islamic Republic.
Iran has declared 5 days of national mourning after the death of President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash yesterday. The Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei, has announced that the vice president will serve as interim president, with a new president set to be elected within 50 days. The Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, said that Raisi had been a true, reliable friend of Russia, and President Erdogan of Turkey and President Xi Jinping of China have both sent their condolences. We can talk now to Professor Fawaz Gerges, Professor of International Relations and at the London School of Economics, and author of What Really Went Wrong, the West and the Failure of Democracy in the Middle East. Very good afternoon from me, Professor.
To you too.
Does his death, the president's death, in any way create a vacuum into which a different type of politics could emerge in Iran?
No, I doubt it very much. Of course, the death of the president and his foreign minister is a huge loss for Iran. I mean, Ibrahim Raisi was not just the president of Iran, he was a serious contender to replace the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, that is the highest executive position in Iran, the supreme leader of Iran. So his death really leaves a vacuum of power, because now Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, and the Iranian clerics have to really find a way out, or to try to fill this particular vacuum by finding a conservative president who basically appeals to the many factions within the conservative establishment in Iran. So even though the president was not the highest executive decision maker, his death, I think, creates a very serious and a very severe crisis for the Islamic Republic.
Is there, to your knowledge, a go-to person who might be the next president?
Excuse me?
To your knowledge, who would the contenders be for the next president?
Well, really, no one knows. Anyone who tells you that they know who the next president will be, it's more of a guess game. The challenge facing the Islamic Republic, the clerics in Iran, is the following. The coming elections will be in 50 days. They will elect a new president. Will the Iranian clerics basically present a conservative candidate unopposed, or will they oppose the contestation of power? Will they allow other candidates to basically run for the president? So the choices are very difficult for the Iranian clerics, because if you basically select one unopposed candidate, this will basically undermines the legitimacy of the Islamic Republic further in the eyes of many Iranians. But if you allow other candidates to compete for power, this could really be disastrous for the clerics, because we know there's a great deal of dissent in Iran. There's a great deal of anger, in particular on the part of young men and women. And we know that the situation, the internal situation, I mean, you have a severe economic crisis. Many young people are alienated from the regime. So the choices in the next 50 days, we will know what kind of path that the clerics in Iran will travel, whether they really want to make sure that there is a conservative candidate similar to Ibrahim Raisi, or whether they will allow competition, political competition in the presidential elections.
And Professor, what does an election in Iran look like?
Well, elections in Iran are real, but they are controlled, they are managed. That is, any candidate who runs for president has to be approved by the committee, by a committee. It really, that what it means, they have to be vetted by the clerics in Iran. In fact, one of the most popular Iranian former president, his name Hassan Rouhani, I don't know if you remember his name, he was seen as a reformer. He was in fact prevented from running for another term. And last month, he wrote a very serious critique of the way that candidates are vetted and selected or controlled or managed by this particular committee. So the reality is, even though there are elections, elections really are not liberal, they're illiberal, that not everyone can run for the president of Iran.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope we speak again. That's Professor Gerges from the London School of Economics.
Mohammed Mokbar has been declared interim president. We can talk to Adnan Tabatabai, an Iran analyst, the co-founder and chief executive of Center of Applied Research in partnership with the Orient. Adnan, hello.
Good talking to you. Hi.
Thank you for joining us. I suppose it is important to point out on the evidence, all the evidence we've seen so far, this does seem to have been an accident.
Yes, I mean, obviously there are a lot of speculations, and it's natural that there are these speculations when two high-ranking officials die in a crash, are in the same helicopter. But yes, I think the more likely reading right now is that it has been a crash.
Indeed. And, well, we know that America and Israel, they seemed anxious not to be blamed for this.
Yes, we've had truly enough tension in the region in the past months. We saw this military operations between Iran and Israel. So of course, both countries will try to make sure that nothing gets out of control.
Okay, now obviously there are big political questions now to be resolved. I mean, the president was seen as a successor to the supreme leader of Iran, and now there will be inevitably a struggle for succession.
Yes, this struggle has been there. It has been looming in the past years. We are reaching some sort of a climax. It's as if we're in a crescendo of political tensions over the succession of the supreme leader's position. Reformists, as you have already said, are indeed marginalized, more or less sidelined, but they're not completely out of the equation. And now is an interesting moment to see whether at this moment of unity in grief, so to speak, whether there is some sort of backdoor for some of the reformist and more moderate factions to re-enter the political scene. But this is something we will have to observe in the upcoming days.
So what might this mean for Iran's relationship with the wider world, in the Middle East and the world beyond the Middle East, relations with Israel, with the United States, with the rest of the world? How might this play out?
For the short term, I would say if no surprises come up in terms of a real return of, let's say, moderates or reformists who have always been more, who have been proponents of a pro-Western policy, or at least of engagement with the West. Unless they have their return, we have to expect that the policy of the past 2 or 3 years under President Raisi will continue. We will have to bear in mind that both the president and the late foreign minister, they have been proponents for this rapprochement with regional rivals such as Saudi Arabia, but they haven't been the key drivers. And that is to say, we do not have to expect changes in how Iran's relations with Saudi Arabia, with the United Arab Emirates has changed in the past years. I think we will rather see continuity here.
Right. And just when you look at it close up as well, it's right, isn't it? The son of the president is seen as a potential contender for the job. But of course, that would look to many Iranians like hereditary rule, and that is contrary to the spirit of the Iranian politics and the republic.
Yeah, I mean, quick correction here. So you're referring to the son of the supreme leader, not of the president, yes, when it comes to the succession of the supreme leader's position. What we should have our focus now on is, of course, the question about who will become the future president. And obviously, when a cabinet is formed, who will then become the successor to Foreign Minister Amir Abdullahian. But obviously, and this is what you're referring to in the background, we have this big question about succession of the supreme leader. Indeed, the son of the supreme leader, or one of his sons, the youngest one, Mujtaba, has always been a name that is dropped. There are reasons to believe that he's in a good position. There are reasons to believe he's not. And you already mentioned one. The Islamic Republic, when it was founded, the founder, Ayatollah Khomeini, said that the successorship in the way that it is handled in monarchies is un-Islamic. So this is nothing for the Islamic Republic as a political system. There are many objections to this idea of having a successorship along family lines.
All right, Adnan Tabatabai, thank you.